Imagine you're only 19 years old. Just months ago, you wore England's crown. The king adored you. Every noble bowed as you passed. Musicians played for you. Poets wrote of your grace. Now, you sit alone inside a cold stone chamber. The walls are damp. A single candle burns low. Outside, guards whisper your name. Tomorrow morning, you will die. This is the tragic story of Catherine Howard, the young queen whose fairy tale ended on the executioner's block. Tonight, we'll uncover what really happened during her final hours, how a teenage girl rose to become Queen of England, and why, in the end, she paid the ultimate price for it. Stay with me till the end, because her last words on the scaffold reveal something historians still debate today. Catherine Howard was born into one of England's most powerful families, the Howards, a noble house with royal ambitions and a long memory for opportunity. But power in her family didn't mean comfort. Her exact birth year is unknown, with historians placing it anywhere between 1518 and 1524. She was raised largely away from her parents, in the crowded household of her step-grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. It was there, among dozens of other young women, that Catherine's early life took a difficult turn. She experienced relationships with older men in the household, relationships she was too young and too powerless to refuse. These early experiences would later resurface with devastating consequences. By her teenage years, Catherine had come to the attention of her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, a man who saw in his niece not a girl to protect, but a piece to place on the political board. The Howards had already given England one queen, Anne Boleyn, Catherine's own cousin, executed just 6 years earlier. Now, the family saw a second chance. Catherine was brought to court to serve as a lady-in-waiting to Anne of Cleves, Henry VIII's fourth wife. The king noticed her almost immediately. By 1540, Henry VIII was no longer the golden prince of his youth. He was approaching 50, overweight, and in constant pain from a festering leg wound that never fully healed. His marriage to Anne of Cleves had been a political and personal disaster, ending in swift annulment. Then he saw Catherine. She was bright-eyed, playful, and full of energy, everything the aging, ailing king felt he had lost. Courtiers described how Henry doted on her, showering her with jewels, land, and affection. He called her his rose without a thorn. Just weeks after his marriage to Anne of Cleves was annulled, Henry married Catherine Howard in a private ceremony. She was crowned queen before she had even reached her 20th year. For a while, it seemed to work. The court buzzed with music and celebration. Henry seemed younger, happier, more alive than he had in years. Catherine had every luxury a queen could want: gowns of silk and cloth of gold, a household of servants, and the devotion of a king who believed he had found joy again. But Catherine hadn't left her past behind, and the world she now lived in, the English royal court, was no place for secrets. It began quietly, a rumor here, a whispered conversation there. Someone from Catherine's past, from those crowded years in the Duchess of Norfolk's household, recognized her. Word reached the wrong ears. Soon it reached Archbishop Thomas Cranmer, one of the most powerful men in England. Cranmer was cautious. He knew that accusing a queen was dangerous, but staying silent, if the rumors proved true, was far more dangerous. He passed a written account to the king rather than risk speaking the words aloud. An investigation began. Witnesses were questioned. Former acquaintances from Catherine's youth were brought forward. Among them, Francis Derham, a man from her past who had once called her his wife in all but law, and Thomas Culpeper, a young courtier close to the king himself, who was now accused of secret meetings with the queen after her marriage. Letters were found. Servants talked. The evidence, real or exaggerated, painted a picture the king could not ignore. Whether every accusation against Catherine was entirely true remains a subject historians still debate. Some of what was extracted came under pressure, and Tudor politics were rarely gentle with the truth, but the consequences were immediate and absolute. Henry, by all accounts, was devastated. Those close to him said he wept, not for mercy, but for himself, for being made a fool of in front of his own court. Catherine was stripped of her title as queen. She was placed under guard at Hampton Court and later moved to Sion Abbey. Derham and Culpeper were tried, convicted, and executed for treason. Then, in early 1542, Parliament passed an act making it treason for a queen to conceal a sexually active past from the king. On the night before her execution, Catherine was told the sentence would be carried out the next morning. She spent her final hours in prayer, according to accounts from the time. Some sources claim she asked for the execution block to be brought to her chamber the evening before so that she could practice kneeling and placing her head upon it, determined to meet death with composure rather than fear. Whether every detail of that story is true is uncertain. It comes to us through secondhand Tudor accounts, which were not always reliable, but it has become one of the most enduring legends of her final night, a story of a teenage girl choosing dignity over despair. At dawn on February 13th, 1542, Catherine was led out to the scaffold within the Tower of London. The morning was cold. A small crowd of witnesses gathered in silence. By most accounts, she was pale but composed. She spoke briefly, acknowledging her guilt in general terms, and asked those present to pray for the king and for her soul. Some later retellings claim she said she died a queen, but would rather have died the wife of Culpeper, though most historians consider this romantic embellishment added long after the fact, rather than something she actually said. Moments later, the executioner carried out the sentence. She was, by most estimates, only about 19 years old. Just before her, another woman was executed that same morning, Jane Boleyn, Lady Rochford, who had helped arrange Catherine's secret meetings and had once given evidence against her own husband, George Boleyn, in the downfall of Anne Boleyn years earlier. History had come full circle in the space of a single scaffold. Catherine Howard was buried quietly in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula within the walls of the Tower of London, not far from her cousin, Anne Boleyn, another of Henry VIII's queens, who had also lost her life on the same ground. Two young women, two brief reigns, two executions just 6 years apart, ordered by the same king. Catherine's time as queen lasted barely 18 months, but her story has endured for nearly 5 centuries, not simply because of how she died, but because of what her life reveals about the world she lived in, a world where a teenage girl could be handed to a king twice her age as a political gift, where her family's ambition outweighed her safety, and where a single mistake, real or exaggerated, could cost a queen everything. One day she was England's beloved queen, adorned in jewels, adored by a king. The next, she was a name in the Tower's execution records, another tragic chapter in the reign of Henry VIII. As the sun set over London that February day in 1542, Catherine Howard's life came to an end, but her story continues to fascinate historians and millions of people around the world to this day. A reminder of how quickly fortune could turn in the glittering, dangerous world of the Tudor court. Thank you for joining me on this journey into Tudor history. Until next time, sleep well and let history whisper you into dreams.